For March's Plan With Me video, we are escaping the craziness of the world and creating cosy cottages in the clouds, inspired by the amazing art of Chris Riddell. This month, I want to whisk you away to the clouds. So grab your notebooks, a cup of tea, and join me as we set up our bullet journals for March 2023. Hello, all you lovely and wonderful people. My name is Lynette. Welcome back to all my amazing subscribers, and welcome to those of you who are new to my channel. So February threw a bit of a curveball for my family, as our landlady has decided to sell our beautiful old cottage that we've been renting for a good couple of years now, and I was pretty devastated about it. However, I've accepted that the universe has its reasons, and it's time for a new chapter and pastures new. If you've been following along with my past Plan With Me videos, then you'll know that my word for the year is manifest. So I thought I'd use this month's theme in my bullet journal to manifest our new home, with the help of the incredibly talented illustrator Chris Riddell as inspiration. Anyone familiar with his work will know that he illustrated Coraline and the Goth Girl series amongst many other books. He also creates these little houses on their own individual rocks floating in the sky, and I absolutely adore them. That idea of your own little safe space detached from the normal realms of existence seems like heaven to me. So with this in mind, I am creating my own little safe space in the clouds. First of all, I sketched the basic idea out in pencil first. I'm not a very confident artist, and I do need to work everything out in pencil before I commit anything in pen. The rock in which my house is perched on is like a diamond shape. When drawing the outlines with a 02 black fineliner, I made sure to draw wriggly and jagged lines, as I want to create the illusion of a craggy, rocky surface. So I've created the basic structure of the base of the rock, which I will continue to build upon with sketchy little lines and cross-hatching. However, I am a little bit sporadic with how I draw, so I'll start working on some stone slabs that give access to my dream home. They're a little bit wonky and misshapen to give the illusion that they're kind of weathered and old, but also if they're too straight, I don't feel like they look organic enough. For the house itself, I was actually quite torn. I absolutely love thatched houses. They're so quaint and beautiful, and we have quite a few here on the Isle of Wight. In fact, I live opposite an early Tudor timber-framed thatched building, and it's absolutely stunning. However, there's that side of me that loves everything creepy and spooky, so I try to amalgamate both things, cottages and spookiness, into the same thing. So gone is the thatched roof, and in its place I'm adding shingles. I decided to keep some of the structure of the house with a Tudor storybook frame, and the main entrance of the house is going to have a gabled roof with weathered spooky-esque timber cladding. I was almost thinking sort of Addams Family house. To give my house the quirky vibes that I love so much, I'm not drawing the windows or the walls with straight edges. They're all a little bit wonky, but it adds to the overall look. So if I'm creating an image of my ideal house, I need at least one tree. Ideally, I would have them surrounded by them, but I'm limited to how much I can add to the top of my little rock. So I make do with one oak tree with a very twisted trunk and add lots of sort of squiggly W shapes to make the leaves. I added more and more until I was happy with how bushy the tree looked. If you watched my last month's Plan With Me video, then you'll know that I tried to set myself the goal of not using any watercolour. It seems to be my go-to when it comes to creating lately, and I failed within the first 5 minutes of setting up my cover page. However, I seem to have achieved that this month, and I haven't used any watercolour whatsoever. For all the little details on the house, I'm adding as many wishlist items as I can without it looking too busy and hectic. So around the windows of the main part of the house, I have added some shutters because I think they just look lovely. There's the old expression, an Englishman's home is his castle. So taking that phrase a bit literally, I'm adding an old oak front door that wouldn't look out of place in such a structure. To match the other side of the building that is single story, I am adding some more Tudor timber framing. And I thought, seeing as this house is in the sky and would have beautiful views, it needs a balcony. For my clouds, I want them to be quite fluffy but also quite wispy, so I get out my 01 fineliner because the 02 would make the outlines a little bit too heavy for what I was going for. So I'm almost done with the illustration for my cover page, But I add a few more cloud formations around my little house on a rock, and then add a very simple frame and the title of March. I can't handle leaving a page blank, so on the page to the left of this illustration, I add a quote by Socrates. The secret to change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but building the new. This is to remind myself over this period of uncertainty to try to stay calm and to focus on the positives. For instance, the house that we live in at the moment doesn't have a bath, we only have a shower, so hopefully the next place will have a nice bath, because I do miss having a long hot soak, especially when it's cold and miserable or you're feeling poorly. Plus I'm going to find it a lot easier washing toddlers and a dog, not together, in a bath rather than in a shower. Next up for my calendar page, I'm keeping things incredibly simple this month. I have a feeling that things are going to probably end up being quite hectic, and I'm not going to have a lot of time to do my bullet journaling, so I'm going to keep things stripped back as much as possible. So for the calendar itself, I'm not bothering with a double page spread, I'm keeping it on one page. I'm keeping it quite minimalistic, and so it's made up of 3 boxes by 3 with a space of 1 box in between it, with a simple 2 by 3 box at the top coloured in black for the days of the week. And then of course I add the title of March at the top with my go-to handwritten font that I tend to use for most things. And then I add the initials for the days of the week in the little black boxes with a white Posca paint pen, which annoyingly decided to run out in this video. Before I continue with my next spreads, Bob decided I needed a little cuddle break. If you've been watching my channel for quite a while now, then you'll know that Bob has made many appearances. He hasn't been in any of my videos for a while because it's freezing in my art studio as it has no heating in this room. But spring must be on the horizon and he's decided to come and keep me company and distract me for a while. I can't deny Bob cuddles. So next up, because my calendar page was very basic, I wanted to add a Dutch door to the other page with another type of floating house, this time creating like a Rapunzel style tower. Where I have quite thick black bold for my titles of the days of the week on my calendar page, I thought once I'd finished illustrating my tower on a rock that I would give it a nighttime background. On the right hand side of the tower, I left some negative space for clouds and a full moon. I sped this process up quite dramatically because it did take quite some time. But once I'd finished colouring in that half of the page, which incidentally I used a Japanese calligraphy brush pen to do all that background work. It was a lot quicker than using a fine liner, and I think the overall effect looked a lot more smoother. I didn't want to leave the moon as a blank circle, so I added a bit of shading and some craters to my moon. And then after I'd finished with my moon, I added some stars with a very dried up old gel pen. I definitely need to buy some more white gel pens. Frustratingly, I had about 7 or 8, none of which wanted to work properly. So after doing that, I get out a cutting mat and a scalpel or craft knife. And then in the center of the page, I cut out along the edge of the right hand side of my rock and tower. And then I have a Dutch door to work with. So on the back of the Dutch door, I thought it'd be a really good idea if I had a huge to-do list, because there's many things that I need to get sorted this month, especially with all the packing that I need to do. As I've said previously in the video, I'm not sure how much time I'm actually going to have for journaling this month, so I don't have too many trackers for this monthly setup. I am still keeping ones that I think are the most important for me personally, so I've kept my social media growth, because it's always good to have that reference to see how your channel is growing or how your other social media accounts are growing. And then on the right hand side of the page, which will still be visible with the Dutch door closed, I'm going to have a list of all my important dates, but I'm just doing the whole month, and then I can add them in as and when I need to. And then in the space that's left, I'm going to add another positivity quote, because I'm going to be needing all of that for the foreseeable. And this time it's a quote by Deepak Chopra, which is, "All great changes are preceded by chaos." I'm hoping that these quotes keep my brain in check if I ever have a freak out or I start feeling a bit overwhelmed. For this, I create a black blob shape and then decorate it with a few little branches and leaves. And then I try to add in the text for the quotes and the title of the page in white pens and white paint pens that are running out. I end up smudging some of the branches with my hand, and so I go over it again with the black pen that I used previous and try to fix it up with some spare bit of paper and some washi tape, which I add to the title for my important dates. And then I also add a little bit to the quote box that I've created, so that the mistake that I've rectified for that title doesn't look out of place. And then I finish it off with a little moon sticker. And these ones are from Midnight Spells from Notebook Therapy. So next up is my sleep and mood trackers. Unfortunately this month they're going to be quite boring and simplistic. I'm just doing 2 graphs for both trackers, so no creative mood trackers for this month. But as I keep saying, I just don't think I'm going to have the time to colour them in, so it just makes sense just to have a graph to still plot everything on, because I definitely want to be keeping track of my moods this month. But that's the wonderful thing about bullet journaling, is that it's adaptable to your lifestyle or whatever's going on at that time. And as much as I love to create and do art, because that is what I do, it's not imperative to have all the lovely creative and beautiful stuff for your bullet journal to still be a functional tool. Now don't get me wrong, I am someone who likes to keep their journal incredibly creative, but I know that there are people out there that keep it very minimalistic, and it's all down to personal choice. But I do think it's important that you need to remind yourself that if you know that you've got a period of time ahead of you that's incredibly busy, or you're not going to have the time to be able to create these amazing and wonderful spreads, not to beat yourself up about it, and know that you can still bullet journal without all of that fluff. I'm still having a brain dump page this month, because I know I'm going to need to offload a lot of my thoughts and ideas still, but I'm decorating it with just a little tree on a rock this time, because nature is also my happy place. And then to finish the page off, I give it a very simplistic border with a light grey brush pen and also a fine liner, so that it ties in nicely with the mood tracker and sleep trackers on the other page. And then I simply add the title of Brain Dump. And now on to March's first weekly setup. With it being only a 5-day week for the first week, I'm going to have nice big boxes spread out over a double page. And then with the grey Koi brush pen that I've used previously on some of my other spreads, I'm doing these simple borders, and then I'm going to add the fine liner pen over the top. Once I've got my frames for my days, I then decorate them with some leaves and some flowers. I draw some wavy lines along the edges and corners of the boxes, which I will then add some simple leaf shapes coming off from. And I sort of add them to different corners and sides of each of the days, but still keeping some semblance of symmetry to my page. What I like about this design is that it's really quick and easy to create, and even though it's very simple, they're really pretty. And you can create these branches as simplistic or as elaborate as you want to, and just keep adding leaves until you're happy with how it looks. In keeping with the theme that I've done so far, I've added a black strip for the title of this first week of March. And then, because my brain is all over the place, I make a mess up. I initially wanted to draw the dates in a light grey brush pen and then write the days over the top. And even though I made a point to myself to remember that the week starts on a Wednesday, I still ended up writing Monday instead. So I coloured it over in black and then hid it all with washi tape as well as I could. And even though those top 2 boxes don't look anything like what I wanted them to, I don't hate them. But anyway, we're almost there for the weekly spread, but I have space at the bottom for yet another quote. I was going to do another house, but then I was quite limited to how much space I had to actually draw a house. Even though it looks quite a big space to work with, I didn't feel like there was enough space for me to really add a building with any detail. So to go along with the quote that I'm going to be adding to this little section, I'm adding lots of flowers and leaves by using negative space, which I initially sketched out in pencil first and then went over the outlines with a black fine liner and then filled everything in behind with a much thicker fine liner. I think this one was a 05. But in the really fiddly bits, like behind that leaf, like the leafy fern that I'm doing now, I still used my 01, and then once I had a bigger space to colour in, I then used the thicker fine liner. I then added some detail to the flowers and leaves with lots of flicky lines, some stars with the white Posca paint pen, and then finally the quote, "Be like a flower, survive the rain, but use it to grow." Even though I've stripped back everything this month, I'm really happy with my spreads. I'm really happy with my little house on the hill on my cover page. I doubt I'm ever going to find anywhere like that here unless I build it myself, but you never know what the future brings. I'm going to be doing another video for the setup for the whole of the rest of the weeklies of this month. It's going to be a Dutch door layout, but for the whole of the month, which will be a huge time saver for me for this month, but with a creative and interesting twist, I hope. I'm hoping to get that out sometime early next week, so if you're interested, keep your eyes peeled. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's video and like the spreads that I've created for March. If you guys could let me know in the comment section below what you think. Did you like them? Did you hate them? Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me. If you did like the video, then please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and would like to support my art, then please hit the subscribe button and notification bell so I can keep you updated on future content. Thank you so much and take care.